checking I'm live. I'm pretty new to this. Awaiting a 1, 2. Alright, sweet, we're live. Alright, just got a bit of delay here, but that's all good. So thanks so much for coming by. So this is the live stream for Courier Volume 1 on Kickstarter. Let me just check the sound's working. Alright, sweet, we're live. Yeah, sweet. Okay, now let's get rid of that. Alright, so let's start that again. I'm Angie Spice. Thanks for coming. I'm going to be doing a little bit of, hello Nicole. I'm going to be just talking about the project and doing a little bit of drawing. I've never done this before, but it'll just be a bit of fun and a chance to talk about the Kickstarter. Sweet, yeah, so for those who don't know, I'm Angie Spice. I'm a creator in Australia. I've been creating comics for maybe about 7 or 8 years now, and just launched Courier, The Adventures of Geraldine Barker on Kickstarter. Courier is actually my debut series in comics, and it was originally released in black and white. But now the Kickstarter edition will be in colour. Let's see how well I can draw and talk at the same time. If you got any questions, just leave a comment and I'll try and get to it as soon as I can. Hokage, welcome. Thanks for coming by. Let's get something started. Yeah. So Courier, what is it? It's comic book series set in Tasmania, 1940s. Geraldine Barker is the main character, and she's trying to find a final scene. Obviously, she's trying to capture a tiger on camera. Partly because they're really, around that time they were pretty rare to find, but I think also she's got a connection to her past, which is explored in the first chapter of the book. Yeah, so she's working as a courier, but she's using her courier runs to search for the thylacine in really remote parts of Tasmania. Tasmania is like an island state in Australia, for those who don't know. I'm sure most of you here do know, but yeah. What am I trying to draw? Yeah, so this is my first Kickstarter I've ever done. I've kind of, I've been thinking about it for a while. Quite a while, but I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to take the plunge, just because it is a lot of work to organize. It's risky, because if you don't raise all the funds, then you won't get funded. You don't get any of the funds, pretty much. So it's an all or nothing affair, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it takes guts to do Kickstarter, I think, and also there's a lot of planning and business stuff involved, but it's been really great learning stuff and just taking the plunge, really. I'm not happy with any of that I've drawn. Hey Halftone, Kieran. Thanks for dropping by. I'm not happy with that. It's difficult to concentrate when you're talking. I need to do this more often. I forgot what I was doing. Fourth Rock. Hello. How's the comic scene in Australia? I think it's pretty good compared to, say, a global scale. I don't know, like we've got some really successful indie creators here in Australia, and also with the bigger publishers. It just seems to be the place to be if you're an independent creator. Keep that up. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. I was based in Melbourne, Australia, which is a very creative. It's like it's probably the creative capital of Australia, and there was a really the comic scene was thriving when I first got into it. It was really good. So I got to just meet and mingle with a lot of creators that were doing really well, so I could learn off them. And also the comic book stores were just doing really well around that time as well. So nowadays it's still pretty strong. Obviously, I feel like comics were doing really well maybe like 5 years ago. They're having a comeback, but maybe in a different way. Like it's definitely sort of more of an international kind of affair at the moment. I feel like Kickstarter is a really good way of going about. I mean, I wouldn't know because this is my first time running Kickstarter, but Kickstarter seems to be a really good way to go. So yeah, I don't know. I better stick with this illustration. Yeah, so what was I talking about? So yeah, Geraldine Barker, main character of Courier. She's searching for the Tasmanian tiger. She sort of, I guess the volume 1 is kind of set. It kind of includes the first few issues of Courier. So that's what the volume 1 consists of. So I've gone it back and I've coloured these 3 to 4 issues actually, and I've just sort of I've redone the letters as well. So the original issues do have their own really cool vibe because they are in black and white, and some of the lettering is hand drawn. But I kind of wanted to compile them a bit better and make it sort of more appealing to a wider audience with the colour as well. And maybe I'm just a sucker for punishment, but it looks really cool. But I kind of like both looks, to be honest. Yeah. I find it hard to draw and talk at the same time. We've got another question. Nickel Canvas. Was it fun revisiting the older issues when deciding to get colour into them? Were you tempted to tweak anything? Thanks, Nickel. Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of interesting because I went through different, different styles and different sort of, different kind of modes in my life where I just, had different flavors. Like some of my older drawings actually seem more detailed, some of them are a bit more loose, and I feel like they all got their own sort of nice parts of the style that I really like. They all have their own charm, even though like I may be technically better at some parts of drawing right now. I feel like there's something really nice about the rawness of your first comic. Like for me, when I look back at Courier 1, I used a lot of brushes and inks, and it just looks really, it kind of looks a bit more old school, a bit more photographic as well, like the old photograph. So I wasn't really tweaked to I did, like, if there was a really bad mistake, I would sort of maybe edit that out and redo the line work, but I didn't really try and play with it too much, because if I was going to redraw it all, then I might as well have done the whole thing, and I didn't want to do too much, but I feel like colouring it was enough. Yeah, but I think with the next volume, volume 2, there is a scene I might want to redraw from issue 4, partially because it's got a bit of controversial elements in it as well, so I feel like I need to change some of that. And Fourth Rock says, how long did it take you to go back and recolor the book? It took a very long time. It probably took, I probably spent like, I mean, obviously I haven't been doing it full time, but I probably spent maybe, a few months, like at least 3 to 4 months, just colouring and relettering it. Took me that long. It's 88 pages, so I was probably doing maybe an average of a few hours a day, so it was quite, I know sometimes it's fun to just colour, because you can kind of just, you know, listen to something like a podcast or watch a movie and colour a bit, stuff like that, but it can get tedious as well, because I just really love to write stories and create new stuff, and I mean these issues of Courier, I think I created them a few years ago, so they don't seem old, but I think I know it's kind of nice to go back to your old work as well, because you can see and reflect on how far you've came. So yeah, took a little while. It did kind of put me off from getting the graphic novel together, actually, because I knew it would be a lot of work, a lot of hours, but I just had to do it because it was driving me nuts. Sometimes you just know when you have to do something, and it doesn't really have to make logical sense to anyone, but yeah, I just had to do it. Yeah, good questions. Oh. So where was I? Tasmanian tiger. Yeah. Obviously, the Tasmanian tiger is an element of this story. It's kind of more of a sub-element, to be honest. The Tasmanian tiger is a thylacine. It went extinct. Well, the last known one was in captivity maybe a few years before the story set, in 1936. So the story set in 1940. So around that time, people didn't really care about conservation very much, because there was the Second World War, and people just they were just worried about surviving and making a living, and it was a strange time. So more people were just interested in, you know, maybe going hunting and trying to hunt down the thylacine and getting maybe some money on the bounty or something. And yeah, it's kind of like what it was like back then. I don't want to give away too much of the story. You have to read it. Oh, cool. I've got another question. I love questions. Nick May, thanks for coming. Will you do more traditional comics in the future, or will you go digital all the way? That's good. That's a good question. I'll just have some water. So actually, I'm just using my Wacom tonight because I don't have another webcam. I did want to do this traditionally. I don't really draw too much digitally anymore. It's good for like studying and maybe doing a bit of tracing for studying and all that kind of thing. But I'm definitely, like, all of my work for other people, or even for my webcomic now, it's all traditional, because I just love using manga nibs and all that stuff. So some people, I don't know, I have done a few, I have done 1 or 2 comics actually that were digitally made, but just didn't seem to have the same sort of I didn't get the same sort of line flow I can get traditionally, even though sometimes like you can achieve different kind of line quality digitally. It just doesn't seem the shapes of the lines are different. They're too different. So yeah, I prefer traditional. I prefer having a bit more friction on the page. But what people are doing now with the AI and everything, it's kind of insane. I kind of wonder whether traditional work will get a bit more buzz. I think it is already from like the amount of AI that's out there. It takes away the process, the joy of the process a little bit, and yeah, I think it's powerful to just stay traditional. So yeah, I'm going to try and be traditional as long as I can, if I can help it. Otherwise, it's all good. If I ever went, if I ever got like if I made a contract with a publisher, and, like, you have to do this, amount of work, and we want you to do digital, and like if it was the right deal, then sure, I'd do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'd rather be traditional, to be honest. Yeah, so I'll tell you a bit about my Courier story. So the Courier story is that I was a local comic creator in Melbourne. I had a few stories that I'd written and drawn, and I was going to the meets and all that stuff, but I just hadn't released anything, and I was kind of just waiting around for someone to say, hey, do you want to do this, or hey, you've got so much talent, let's do that, or something like that. And I'm like, nothing was happening, so I realized I had to do something myself if I ever wanted to be anyone. And so I gave myself a month to create a comic. That was a month to create it and publish it, by the way. I was at my local library and I saw something up that said they were going to have like a writer's fair, like just a small local thing. I'm like, well, that'll be my deadline. So I made that my deadline, and then I had a month to get all that done, and obviously I did that when I was a bit younger and I had a bit more energy and I stayed up all night. I still got really sick, so I wouldn't recommend it, but it did help me get my first comic done. So yeah, that was a bonus. So that's how I got into Courier. So it was never meant to be a series. However, what was I going to say? Yeah, when I wrote my first Courier, I actually wrote too much because I was just writing novel format. So when I transferred it into the first Courier, it was only half of what I'd written. So then I felt compelled to keep going, and I think that's probably what sucked me into doing the rest of the series. Just kept going and rolling, and I think sometimes when you have a really good story, it just keeps going. So that's kind of how it all started. And then we've got Nickel Canvas. I picked up some Courier issues from you at a regional convention a while back. So cool. Do you still get around to the conventions around Oz? Yes, I do. Sorry. Yeah, so I do a lot of conventions. I probably don't do I do some of the bigger ones if I'm invited. No, that's not always true. I try and do as many as I can. I do a lot of markets nowadays. Surprisingly, I do really well at markets, just like boutique markets and stuff like that. So I try and do as many different events as possible. Comic-Cons, I do love Comic-Cons. But I mix it up now. Go to events. We just had free comic book day in the library where I live. So did that. Different types of markets. I think my last biggest one was Oz Comic Con in Melbourne. Haven't been to Sydney yet, actually. That's something that I would like to do this year, hopefully. Haven't been to Adelaide either, so I do have a few places I need to get to. But this year I've decided to focus more on actually getting work done. For example, Courier. was a big thing to check off. Courier Volume 1 and Courier Volume 2. I plan to release that next year, but I've kind of given myself this year to get that done as well. Also because I feel really strange if I don't actually work on anything new during the week. So Hobart Rhapsody, my current webcomic, if I don't do a couple of pages on that a week, I start to feel really insecure and like out of place. So this year, my focus is actually getting more work done rather than doing conventions. Although they're equally important as a self-published creator. So hopefully I can get to Sydney. Yeah, this was meant to be a car, but so yeah, this project. So the main goal of this project on Kickstarter is to raise the funds to get the graphic novel printed. Obviously, I can't fund it on my own. Normally I've funded smaller print runs, like the single issue comics on my own, but to take the next step as a self-published creator, I kind of need to, get connected, I guess, and get other people involved. Nicole says, it's a great way to find new comics and meet the creators at the same time. Such a unique thing compared to most other entertainment things. Yeah, I agree. That's one thing I really enjoy about conventions is meeting people, because when you're a creator, you're stuck at home the whole time. And, especially like a lot of us, all of our free time is pretty much doing this. So going to a convention, it's sort of like a win-win, like on a social side and on a business side, or selling you know what I mean, selling your comics. So no, it's good. It's really good. I've met some really great people at conventions. In fact, I have to argue maybe most of my reach is from doing the conventions. Yeah, I try and do as much as I can. It's always a great way to meet people, and it's fun to do cosplay as well. Like I remember the first free comic book day I went to. This is before I started making comics. It was a really nice icebreaker to go to All Star Comics in Melbourne, dress up as Star Wars character at the time, Darth Traya, she's a Sith Lord from the computer games, and it just felt so good to break the ice that way, because that was before I got into comics, and back then it was so scary to go into a comic book store, especially being a girl. Like the scene has just changed so much since I started. It's really strange. Fourth Rock says, how did you come up with the backer levels? Oh, for the campaign. Backer levels. Not quite sure what you mean by that. Do you mean the financial side? If that's what you mean, then I just sort of tried to apply what my normal sales are like at a convention, and I applied it to the Kickstarter. Obviously, there's additional postage. But I was sort of thinking, especially for the add-ons, I kind of wanted to make them free of postage, just as an extra sort of bonus thing, because that's what the backer's getting. So I did try and take that into consideration as well. Tried to keep it simple, and also wanted to throw in some original art there as well, just in case someone wanted that. Obviously it's my first time running a Kickstarter, so I'm kind of just seeing what works for this one. It's definitely like completely new ground for me. Luckily I've had a couple of guys to talk to about it, so that's been great. What was I going to talk about? Excuse me. So the main goal for this was the main goal is to get the funds to print the graphic novel, and then also an extra bonus will be getting, if we get extra funds, it will be to print the first issue of a Hobart Rhapsody, the webcomic I'm currently working on. So that would be just incredible. That's a little bit ambitious, obviously, but that would be really cool. And if I somehow like really do well, or we do well, I should say, then I'll be able to make an extra comic for Purbly the cat. He's that fluffy white cat in the main picture on my Kickstarter. So he'll get his own story, and he's pretty obnoxious. Like, I used to have 2 fluffy white cats like that, Burmese fluffy cats, and they're just full of stories, full of laughs. Yeah, so that'll be fun to explore that idea. So fourth rook, I don't have my glasses on. The pledge levels, like what rewards and the like. Yeah, I think I answered that. Sorry if I didn't, but ooh la la. So Kickstarter story. Yeah, so I think I just went over that. Kickstarter, something I was thinking about for quite a while, maybe even a few years, but I'm like, oh god, I don't know. I was like, maybe not quite confident I could do it, or maybe I wasn't quite willing to do it, because it is quite a plunge. Like, it's quite a big business sort of move to make in a way. It's a big responsibility. Anyone you talk to that's run a Kickstarter, they just say it takes up all your time for a couple of months or more. But I was just at a point where I'm like, you know what, I need to take some chances, and so that's what compelled me. I'm just like, you know what, it's just so cliche. It's like people say, it doesn't matter if you fail, you just got to give stuff a go. You need a leap of faith, and it's fun to take a challenge and get out of your comfort zone as well. It's really just so rewarding, and I think that's the most important thing we can do as human beings, is just take some more chances, and otherwise life gets a bit boring, you know. So but also I was kind of out of options as well to get this graphic novel done, so it was kind of like, oh well, now's the time, I guess. So what else? Yeah, so it's been quite a process, obviously, to making a Kickstarter. Had to come up with all the pledges and all that stuff. Had to think of rewards, and had to build like the project page. But it was fun, just compiling all this information, kind of being sort of taking a moment to be really sort of grateful for my own work as well. Because sometimes it's hard to sort of give yourself a pat on the back. I made a video, which was something new for me as well. Had to buy some software for that. Had to make a video. I've actually wanted video software for a long time, but I was a bit stingy to buy it, because I'm pretty stingy. Being like a comic creator, don't have a lot of extra money all the time, so I finally got that done, and now that's been so helpful for me, especially just for other creative work as well. And it was fun making that video. If you haven't seen it, I made a video for the Kickstarter. It was like kind of like an animatic. It was a lot of fun to do, and I got a song, I licensed a song. So that was really fun. Now, fourth rook says, do you often sell original art? Yeah, so I've started bringing more original art to conventions and stuff, but I don't know how interested people are right now. Maybe they will be later, but yeah, I don't sell too much, to be honest. you know, but I haven't really been displaying it very much either. So, you know, who knows? Thanks, Nicole. Yeah. I've gone to a few markets and like I've had my original art and a few like bigger pieces up, which I don't usually do oversized pieces. I usually do like A3 or B4 size comic art, but it hasn't really grabbed anyone. I think people are just really more interested in my comic books. But maybe I'll do a gallery or something sometime, and then people will be like, "Oh, this is real art," and then they might buy it. But I've got some original art available on the Kickstarter as well as an add-on. They're the A4 size. They're at A4 size because when I first started making comics, I didn't realize you were meant to draw at a larger scale, so they're smaller. But they're available on the Kickstarter because they can post better. So I've got a few of them available if you're interested. But they are add-ons, so you'll need to buy like sorry, you don't buy. You need to back like one reward that's on the Kickstarter, and then you can go to add-ons, and then it'll be under the add-on tab as an add-on, if that makes sense. This looks more like Cabaret than Courier right now. Yeah, so the Kickstarter process has been a little bit it's been a lot to take on. It's been a really big learning curve. It's just it's kind of like challenged me in so many different avenues. Even from like, you know, getting a song, buying a license for a song and putting it to a video. It's like really sort of grown up stuff to do. Because because part of me just wants to be a creator and just stay in my room and not do anything to, you know, do all that grown up stuff and organize stuff, and but it's kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone a lot. So yeah. Let's talk about my inspirations. Inspiration for Courier. So Courier obviously set in Tasmania, so it was inspired by a road trip I took there. I am Tasmanian. I'm from King Island though, which is it's part of northern Tasmania. So on King Island we call Tasmania the mainland. So didn't really get to go there very often, but I went on a road trip there in the wilderness. It's like another world. It's very the wilderness is very spiritual, very strong, and it's wild. And I think that's why people just fall in love with the nature there, and they believe all the thylacines out there, and there's so much mystery. So I got a lot of inspiration there. I saw a lot of currawong, which are also featured in the comic, and they're very intriguing animals, or birds, or whatever you want to call them. So I got a lot of inspiration from them as well, and in the comic there, the birds that wake up Geraldine when she passes out. Now what's this? Nice, so I guess you're stoked about the new AFL team. I don't follow AFL, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. What is there, a currawong AFL team? There might be a lag in my thing. No, I don't. The only sport I watch is UFC, MMA, and I know it's weird for me to say, but I'm pretty weird. Yes, I was really inspired by the currawong, and it really does invoke your imagination. And at the time, like I said, I was looking after a couple of fluffy white cats that had massive personalities, and they would meow at me all the time. And oh, Tassie got a new team. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they were really big influences. Obviously, Purbley is just one cat, but they were very big influences. I love World War II era. Like that's a really exciting time. I know there's a lot of stories set in World War II, but it was just like a really sort of groundbreaking time in history. So that really, I just love that era, 1940s. also I wasn't aware at the time, but I was really inspired by a computer game called Grim Fandango, which is like an action-adventure, old-school LucasArts game. And if you've ever played it, just if you ever remember it, that is. Yeah, there's a character in there called Olivia, and she has a beret and a jacket, kind of a little bit like Geraldine, kind of, not really, but kind of. And they have like really fancy cars, and I think it's set around the same sort of era. It's film noir, but when I played that again, I'm like, my God, I got so much inspiration from that computer game, that old school computer game. It's so good. I recommend playing it if you're into retro games and you haven't played it. Grim Fandango. It's really cool. Very creative. A lot of those old school games are, and nowadays I feel like they're getting less creative, but they maybe, oh, you love that game? Yeah, I love that game. Grim Fandango is so good. It's got beautiful backgrounds. I'm not happy with that. I've also written down a few of my top 5 favorite mangaka. I didn't actually write much there, but so my favorite influences are Akira Toriyama. So he's the creator of Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people know Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball is the series that goes before that. Style's a little bit rounder, a bit more comical, a bit more fun. So he's probably, I really love his storytelling style most of all, so he's definitely influenced me a lot. Then we've got Ryoko Ikeda, so she's the creator of Rose of Versailles. That's what she's best known for, Rose of Versailles, but how would you say that? But my favorite manga of hers is Onisama, which isn't released in English, so I watch it in Japanese sometimes. I have the manga in Japanese too, which I can slowly decipher, like the katakana and hiragana if I want to, but I don't have time for that, but maybe one day. So she was around in the 80s. She's still creating them, I think. Another creator that I've recently discovered is Shigeru Mizuki. He's written, what's his book? It's called Showa, A History of Japan. So he's got, he was a soldier in World War II times, and he has written a lot of comics. He became a mangaka. It's a crazy story. He actually lost an arm when he was out, in Papua New Guinea, and then he decided to become a mangaka. So that's pretty impressive, I think. I don't know whether he lost his which arm was his main arm, but anyway. I thought he's a lot of fun. He's got a good sense of humor, and he's historically relevant as well. Another one I've got here, these are in no order by the way, is Naoki Urasawa. So he's I think he's mostly known for Monster, and he's done Pluto, which is like a spin-off series of Astro Boy. I just love the way he draws. It's very loose and very relaxed for a mangaka. And lastly, I've written down Hirohiko Araki. He is the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Actually, I've taken quite a liking to him just because he released this really good book about writing and drawing manga. It's very, very good, and it gave me a lot more insight into creating manga, more from a Japanese perspective, because everyone has their own, I guess, views on manga, but the Japanese have very different approaches to creating comics as well. So that book really helped me a lot. And Nicole says they re-released it for modern systems, so it's a good recommendation. Oh yeah, Grim Fandango, what the game I was talking about. Yeah, and I got the remastered version. And I think actually what's really cool about that game is that they hired the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra to record the old game music in they got the orchestra to film it, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool. So the music is just incredible, and it's kind of cool that they recorded it here in Australia so close. Like that's always really cool. Do some drawing. Yeah, so like I said, I don't really draw a lot on the Wacom. I do draw, like I practice a lot, but I don't do a lot of final art on it. So it does feel a bit different. But also I don't usually talk and draw, so. Oh, okay. Holbrook says, have you seen Urasawa's manga creators documentary series? Yes, I have. Actually, I think that's how I discovered him. It's really cool. I need to rewatch it. I need to rewatch it. It was good to see Princess Jellyfish, that creator as well. I've forgotten her name. It was great to see because it's good to see how even world-class mangaka can feel so insecure about their work. Because I think as a creator, you always sometimes just think, oh, I'm just a fake or a phony, or I'm not really that good. Everyone has those thoughts in their heads, and some people are such perfectionists as well. It was good to see that. So once I've got this volume 1 of Courier printed, my goal is to get the second one printed, and then I'll commence working on a Hobart Rhapsody, the webtoon. I'm still working on it, but I'll be able to spend more time working on it once I get those graphic novels out of the way. And then I just want to focus on getting a Hobart Rhapsody printed and done, complete, and then I'll be on to the next big thing. So yeah, I can't wait to have it all over and done with. It's going to be cool, because I have been making Courier now for quite a long time. I made it. I released the first one in 2016, and then the last one was released during the pandemic in 2020 or 21, I can't remember. So I did spend a good 5 years making it. So it'd be good to sort of, wrap it up properly, have it in the graphic novel. Although a Hobart Rhapsody is a spin-off series, it feels different, but yeah, you get what I mean. More about my creative process and routine. I've got some pre-made questions here that I've made for myself to fill time as well. It'd be to clean this up once I go offline, so I can actually focus a bit more. So I've made some questions, but if you guys, oh wait, I've got another one from here. If you guys want to ask me anything, feel free. It can be any question as long as it's not inappropriate or anything. Do you know how long a Hobart Rhapsody will be? Yeah, so I've had someone else ask me this the other day or week or whenever it was. So Hobart Rhapsody right now is probably a third done. Although I have, after realizing like how long it's taking, like when I first started it, I was spending like 4 to 5 days a week on it, like pretty much full time, and you know, as I said, it's on Webtoon, and Webtoon isn't really giving me any money, so I was pretty much working slave labor. So I've cut it back a little bit, like how much time I'm spending on it, and I've focused more on getting it printed because of that. Because Webtoon is a little bit oversaturated right now. So yeah, so I'm probably a third through now, but I have edited it a lot out because I want to make it shorter. I'm a big believer of finishing what I start. Even if it's not exactly working the way I would have liked. Like, I'm not a quitter, I'll keep going, and I like to sort of honour what I started, even if it's probably not the best platform, but you never know like what's going to happen or what will come from something either. So yeah, I'm a third through. I'm contemplating whether I might have an early finish for Webtoon, so that there'll be a finish there. It'll be an early finish for Webtoon, but maybe there'll be the real finish only in print, maybe as some sort of incentive to get the Webtoon readers to read the rest. But I've kind of realised that webcomic readers are very different to comic book readers. They expect to get, a lot of them expect to just read for free, and they expect a lot of content as well every week. And yeah, I don't know. I just gotta keep going with it. But I would like to have it finished maybe sooner than later, but I think the main goal right now is to just get Courier done because it's just taking up a lot of my energy. But I find it's been very challenging working on it actually, because I'm so used to printing out my comic and having that reference like that I can hold in my hand so I can see and look at characters and I don't know, just have a bit more of a feel like reflect on my work a bit more. But when everything's digital, like webcomics, I don't really get to sit back and reflect the same way. So I think it's going to be good printing it, because I just feel like I just forget scenes and I forget certain parts of the story just because it's all on the web, and I don't really look at Webtoon like that. So excuse me. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I would like to wrap it up sooner than later, but I enjoy working on it. But yeah, I want it to be on the right platform as well. That's handy. Nothing wrong with interviewing yourself. Yeah. Well, I needed a backup plan. So here's a pre-made question. Do you plan to do anything more with the Courier series after printing this volume and the final second volume? So my answer is I'm pretty happy to leave it how it is. But if anyone else, like another publishing house or someone else, like offered to do something with it and wanted a license for it, I'll be open to it. But like if a publisher went to me and like, oh, can you redraw all this and we're going to release it again, I'd be like, I'll probably say no, because I've just spent so much time on it, and I think that it's perfect the way it is. It's perfect being the kind of debut sort of indie work. I think I feel like it's not broken. I think it needs to be left as it is. But if someone wanted to do something new with it, then sure, I'll be open to that. But I think as a creator, like as an indie comic creator, I think I'm ready to let it sit, just because I'm already doing a Hobart Rhapsody, and a Hobart Rhapsody is kind of like, you could say it's a spin-off series, but it's also like, it was kind of like a, how do I say, it was conceived by Courier, like this is kind of like in my mind, kind of more like a more refined work, maybe a more maybe the story I really wanted to tell, where I used Courier as something that was diving into creating comics. I feel like A Hobart Rhapsody is more of the kind of storytelling I want to get into, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's my answer for that. If anyone else has any questions, then feel free to jump in. Here's another question. What else have you worked on? So recently I worked as an illustrator on a short comic called Fade. It was written by Julie Dietrich. It was lettered by Stephen Koch. They're both pretty big names in the comic industry in Australia. And I've also worked with Kieran Jack, who's pretty big, and Matt Kime. I've worked with both of them on their stories. First one was Wrath of the Cursed. Wrath of the Cursed. I worked with Matt Kime, and now Kieran's actually releasing a new book of that. So, sorry, this is getting really confusing. I've also worked with Kieran on Talking Bread and in Purgatory as well. So I've worked with both of them. I've also worked. There was a manga magazine coming out quarterly called Good Day Punch. I've done a couple of shorts for them as well, and I've probably forgotten a few things, but that's what comes to mind. And now I've got. Have you always been the author of your works? Yeah, for all of my projects I have. For all the other stuff I've done, I've just been an illustrator. So primarily I sort of do regard myself as a writer and like equally as much so as an illustrator. But yeah. And have you ever collaborated with any other artist writer? Yeah, I just said well, I've collaborated as like an artist, but not as a writer. I think I would like to write more stuff. It takes so long to draw pictures and stuff, but I really like to be creating the story, I think. So, yeah, we'll see. I would like to, and that's the beauty about writing, is that you got so much time in the day to write, but it takes so much longer to draw. Here's another question. I just answered what else have I worked on. Another question. What do you like to do outside of comics? So at the moment I am pretty much doing comics full time. Yeah, I'm pretty much doing. I also do a bit of MMA analysis work. Well, it's kind of a hobby at the moment, but I like to do a bit of that. On the side, I've just started doing that. That was a bit of a challenge for myself because I thought, you know what, I feel like I can talk about MMA and I enjoy watching fighting and I really love getting involved with the fighters' stories. It's been very inspirational and very powerful for me. I get really obsessed with different things, so that's kind of what I do outside of comics. I used to do a lot of performing, like jazz singing and all that around Melbourne. I kind of got out of that just before the pandemic hit, luckily, so I didn't feel too scorned by that stuff. I would like to get back into my music, but it's tough to find the time. There's so much time involved with comic creation. Doing a little bit of MMA analysis work is just fun and easy to do. I don't know, if I find like the right sort of venue around where I'm at the moment, I'll definitely get back into a bit more performing because there's nothing quite like it. Hokage, 8th Hokage just said Andy's MMA analysis is on point. Nah, thanks. I'm just doing it for fun. But you never know. I missed a question. Ooh, sorry, I'm really thirsty because I'm not used to talking. Another question. Oh wait. Who first comes to mind if you could have a dream collaboration? So yeah, I guess this is, as soon as I was writing this, the first person that came to mind was actually Hayao Miyazaki, the Ghibli guy. I know he's an asshole to work with. I've watched his documentaries and people like just hate working for him because he pushes everyone so hard. But I think if I got to work with him, we'll end up hating each other so much, but we'll create something like really, really good because he's the opposite to me in ways. But when I watched his documentary, I felt like I could relate to him so much. So it'll be really turbulent, but it'll be really good, I think. But anyway, we've got another question here. Did you know what colours your books will be before you coloured them, or was it trial and error? So this time around, I did kind of know the colour scheme I was going to be working with, just because like I'd already released the original comics in the colours with the covers that they were, so I knew it was going to be greens, and I knew it was going to be sort of creams, because it's 1940s, a bit aged and a bit sort of that old-fashioned sort of feel. So I've got a lot of the greens for the Tasmanian wilderness, a lot of creams for the aged feel, and a lot of colour schemes that kind of go in with Geraldine as well. Geraldine has a very sort of, her colour scheme kind of fits in with the nature as well. So yeah, I know it's pretty straightforward. I don't know what samples you're doing. I did reprint a couple of my single issues in colour just for a trial, and the colours came out way too flat. They looked like just a flat colour, they came out too flat. So for the graphic novel, I went back and I just broke up the flat colours a bit, put a few more whites in there. Just because some of the flats didn't really do justice to my yeah, so I've learned a lot about colouring during the process too. It's definitely given me a bit more confidence and a bit more it's sharpened my intuition a little bit with the colours. So it's been good, and I actually got a lot quicker at colouring as well, because it forced me to find a quicker process. Although, ever since doing my webcomic, I've kind of got a lot better anyway, because I've been forcing myself to colour everything. I don't really, if I could choose, I'd rather do something in black and white. But colour seems to resonate with more people, so, yeah. Another question. How do you go about making a comic from scratch? Yeah, so for me, making a comic from scratch, well, I guess it was like that for Courier, wasn't it? I gave myself a deadline. That was the main thing, a deadline, because if you don't have a deadline, you've got nothing to work to. A deadline sort of helps you realize how much you're going to need, how much you need to do every day. So it helped me sort of allocate a week to, say, a few days to concept, a few days for storyboards, maybe a week for pencils, and maybe a week for inks. I know this is a really crammed schedule. Like, I would not recommend it. And then a week for the editing and lettering. I didn't get any sleep, and yeah, it's not worth squishing it all in. But it kind of just giving myself the deadline seemed to be the key ingredient to actually achieve something. And also it helps, yeah, like I said, having that date at the library where I could I needed the final work. And there's a few really great comic book printers that have really quick turnaround, so they only need a few days to get your order back to you, which is really handy if you're running out of time. Okay, what we got here? Are you following any ongoing comics or manga? I haven't been recently. I've just been sort of collecting like indie comics. What's the most recent comic I've got? I've been reading. Can't remember. I discovered an anime called Hajime no Ippo, which is a boxing anime, and I love that. That's probably my newest find in like, it's not really manga, but I just discovered that the creator is still writing the manga, and he's been writing the manga since like the 90s, so I'm just so excited. I'm like, oh my god, this series is still going. It'll be so great to read that manga or get my hands on that manga somehow. So that's been really exciting for me, Hajime no Ippo. I haven't finished watching it because the two last seasons are not available online, so I have to try and find them somewhere. But I love that anime. I reckon it's really good. I recommend it if anyone's into martial arts. And I've also got here my favourite sandwich. Sandwich person. I love my breakfast sandwiches though, like the egg and bacon things, and I feel like I'm forgetting something. I like all these breakfast kind of rolls and stuff, but I know I'm forgetting something. I like a bit of salami and egg and bacon, cheese, all that kind of stuff. Really rich sandwich. Don't really like peanut butter sandwiches. I kind of used to. I like peanut butter on toast, but yeah. Okay, another question. A pre-made question. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to achieve something creative? Yeah, so that's pretty much like what I said. Have a deadline. Don't be afraid to fail at trying something. Nicole says brekkie is acceptable on the sandwich scale. Yes, totally. I think you've just got to give yourself a go. Give yourself license to create if you want to create something. That's what I find is that so many people, like my peers and that, we just really love what we do, and we just work really hard, and a lot of us feel like we're not talented, but it's just not like talent is something, but it's not always talent. Like it's about it's like going beyond your talent, going beyond your own thoughts and your own, like the voices in your head. You've got to just push them aside and just go for it. And I find so many people that that really wish that they could pursue their dreams, and they always make up excuses. They just haven't ever challenged that voice in their head. Yeah, I don't know, that's probably just a bit rambly, but I don't know, I think it helps if you can be creative when you're younger and that, because I think it's harder to break out when you're older, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. Here's another question. On average, how many hours do you spend drawing each day? So at the moment, I'm not spending a lot of time drawing, just because I've been really busy with the Kickstarter and a few conventions and stuff. So, but on a week where I don't have not too much on, and I can work, say, on my normal webcomic schedule, I'll probably spend maybe 10 hours drawing a day for the page that I work on that day. It's not 10 hours straight, it's broken up. Like, I'll have a lot of breaks. I need so many breaks because if I just stay in front of the page, my eyes get used to what you're drawing, and they can't you need to freshen your eyes up, because if you just sit down, one thing I've really found is if you just sit down and you work on your page and you don't have a break, you think, oh, this is so good, but you need to go, get up, come back to it, and be like, oh shit, actually that's not working, or so I take breaks now. Some days I might spend like the whole day just colouring. So if so on my usual schedule, I do 3 pages a week, so I'll spend 3 of those days maybe drawing like, I don't know, 10 hours a day or less, depends. Some pages do come out quicker. And that 10 hours a day also includes like my warm-up, my anatomy practice, what else? Just life drawing practice. But yeah, I haven't been drawing like that recently just because I've had too much of the Kickstarter stuff to do. So that's kind of what I do. But then obviously I will spend a few days inking as well. And then editing like pages takes a lot of time too, so I could spend like a day doing that. But I don't know, I am getting quicker at drawing, especially with my pages. I kind of know how to control my pace, so I know how to sort of add a bit more detail if I want to. I think I'm kind of at the stage now where I have to like be like, oh, let's take a little bit more time now and just add a few more details back in. Yeah, so I can control my pace, which I think is really important if you want to do like lots of long comics like I do. Another question. If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently with your career? These are always trick questions. I didn't draw for like 10 years, so I was drawing a lot in high school, and then I got into music, and I kind of put drawing on the back burner, drawing and writing, that is, like all that stuff. I don't really regret it because I felt like it was very important for me to go out and like live life and follow my music career and connect with people and meet people and go through all these experiences, because now I can draw about it. So I don't really have any regrets, but if I could do anything differently, I think I would not be such a people pleaser, because I pretty much wasted my music career pleasing other people, and I was in this band, and they would get me to learn 2 songs every week, and I was always pleasing them, not being like, hey, can't we just play one of my songs, or that's just an example of how I used to be. But now I'm kind of like taking charge a bit more of myself and be like, no, I want to do this, and like sort of following my own intuition, my own compass. And I think as a creator you really need to do that. So I guess like for my music career, maybe I would have had a bit more fun if I did my own thing, but I guess like it all kind of came into my comic career in a way that it's given me, I think it's helped me kind of be ready for comics. And so I just think life is like that. Everything that seems to be maybe you could have done better, nah, that was just part of your journey. So yeah. Oh, here we go. More questions. Oh god. I need to read it. So we've got, do you prefer 1 day or 2 day conventions? I prefer 1 day, just because I get extremely exhausted doing the 2 day ones. But I do love doing the 2 day like Supernova Oz Comic Con ones. I do really enjoy that. But I just find myself, I get so emotionally exhausted and run down as well. It's probably like, that's the other thing, is that I still want to create comics. Like so many people that do these big conventions all year round, I'm kind of like, how do you have time to actually create stuff? A lot of the people that do a lot of conventions, they're not creating as much as other comic creators. It's just the facts, because they're spending half the year traveling. So yeah, I prefer the 1 day ones for that reason. We've got, if Courier were to be adapted into something on the screen, who would you want starring in it? Oh, God, that's a good one. Well, it's tough because I kind of, if it was like, if I could get a celebrity that's died or something, then obviously I'll get Katharine Hepburn to play Geraldine Barker, because Geraldine's looks was based off her. Katharine Hepburn from the 1940s, a Hollywood actress. Evelyn Crafer, the girl in the Courier comics and the girl in Hobart Rhapsody. I modelled her off Jodie Foster, but obviously Jodie Foster will be too old to play her now. What other characters did I use? Celebrities don't use characters. I can't remember. But you know, I've thought about it, and if possible, I'd love to get some actual, like, real Tasmanians in, because I think nowadays it's too many, like, of this, it's just the same celebrities getting the same roles in the same films. It's just a bit boring. I'd love to have a bit more diversity, feature some local talent, if possible. I really miss those days of more kind of independent stuff. Like the time when I grew up, there was a lot more Australian-made stuff, a lot more funds in animation and TV. But it'll be really great if we could go back to there, get back to that place somehow. I think that one day we'll get there. Yeah, it's just a matter of time, isn't it? Another question, pre-made one. Do you have any stories that haven't been published? Yeah. So, I've got a few comics, quite a few. I think everyone does, right? That they haven't published, like, stories you've written when you're a child or before you've, like, published something. I've got a really big series I want to release one day. But I haven't, because I kind of wanted to learn the art form with these comics first before I release that one. And this is a story I've written, you know, throughout my teenage years, and later on refined it and, you know, developed it more. I do have a concept I really want to get done. I'm sort of unsure how to go about it, but first things first, I need to get Courier done, Hobart Rhapsody done, and then I'll think about doing that one. But I don't know when. And we get another question on screen. Fourth Look says, are there any Australian comics that you would recommend? Yeah, there's plenty. I wish I had a list in front of me. So Killaroo is a good one by Darren Close. Kieran Jacks just got Wrath of the Cursed, and he's got The Talking Bread. Wrath of the Cursed is by Matt Kine as well. It's his sort of, what do I call it? It's his creation. Who else? There's so many. Yeah, you put me on the spot. They're fresh in my mind because they've just released Kickstarters. I don't know. There's so many authors like out there. I don't know. Sorry, I'm a bit got too much on my mind. Okay. Got another question here. As a fan of MMA and UFC, would you ever consider creating an would you ever consider creating an MMA themed comic or manga? I have released a boxing manga short, like a few page. It was like an 8-page short story in Good Day Punch, the manga magazine I was talking about. I have thought about it, and I did have a concept for an MMA story, but then I read this manga called All Rounder Megaru, which is a bit of an MMA kind of themed manga, and it's so technical and so precise about everything that happens in there. I just feel like God, I've really got to know like all the moves, everything down to a T if I'm going to make a manga out of it. I've got to know what I'm writing and drawing about. So maybe later on. Right now, I don't know. I don't really have time to start anything new, but maybe later on, and once I have a bit more experience and understand moves a bit better and different aspects of fighting, maybe. So Nickel Canvas asks, "What's your favorite comic shop?" My favorite comic shop. So I have very fond memories of All Star Comics when they were expanded downstairs as well. Just because that's when I first got into comics, and they were always very welcoming. So they have a big place in my heart always. Also, Classic Comics was a fun place to go to. They had really good what do you call it? Back issues. So those two, pretty much. I would say my favorite. Classic Comics isn't there anymore, but All Star Comics, they're great guys. They put so much effort into their shop and their passion. And they were always welcoming, and for me, that was pretty big. So I felt very uncomfortable going into a comic book store. I'll read an MMA comic. Yeah. I don't know, we'll see. Take this down. So, another question. What do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy drawing or writing? So I definitely enjoy working on comics that I've written. I kind of think I'm primarily a writer, but drawing is such a big part of that. Obviously, like I never used to talk a lot when I was a kid, so drawing was a way of expressing myself. I've kind of learned how to be a little bit more articulate with my words, but it's not really natural for me. Like talking was never natural to me, so drawing was always like how I would express myself, drawing or singing, with actual words. So I like telling stories through the images, obviously. But I definitely enjoy working on being the creator, creating the story. I also enjoy drawing for other writers, but it's not the same. It's a lot more effort. Although it is fun, but I prefer, if I had to choose, I prefer working on my own stuff for sure. I feel like I have some really cool ideas, and I just feel like it's my purpose, and if it's your purpose, then. But it's really great working with other people because you get to learn so much. Have I got any more questions? Okay, I got a question here. What's the strangest comic convention you've ever been to? God, I don't know where that came from. I don't think I've really been to a strange convention. I've been to some events where there was a weird vibe. But I'm not throwing anyone under a bus or anything. I went to, I've done like an event before where it was an event and someone was meant to, I was pretty much doing an event for a place, and they pretty much took my comics and they didn't pay me for it, and their business didn't work out anyway, so that's probably the weirdest thing. But got a question here from Nickel Canvas. What's the most recent game you've played? So at the moment I haven't been playing any games. I let myself play a computer game once I've done finish something, maybe once I've got this graphic novel out, I'll let myself play a game. I don't allow myself to buy games very often, so because I don't want to waste time just playing them. but last year I did buy The Force Unleashed. That's a really cool game, cool Star Wars game. I really love that. But the game's a bit short. Got another question, pre-made one. How many years does it How many years does it take to become good enough to make comics? So it doesn't really take any time to make a good comic. You can have zero drawing skill and make a really good comic, because it's all about the communication of the ideas, and yeah, I think some people don't allow themselves to create because they think they're not good enough, but you're going to get better by doing it. Like, that's the best way to improve, so you just should start it, I think, and yeah, take it from there. Question. If you had to choose between Courier, The Adventures of Geraldine Barker, or a Hobart Rhapsody game picked up by a media house, which would you choose? That's a tough question, actually. So I still feel like I'm getting the Hobart Rhapsody out there. I feel like I haven't. It's really weird because I've had a really good rapport with Courier. But with a Hobart Rhapsody, I don't think it's really got to my audience yet because I am releasing it on Webtoon, so I think that I just haven't had the same feedback I would like from it, and I guess it's targeted at a very specific audience as well, so it's a little trickier. But if I had to choose, I'd rather see, they're pretty much the same story anyway, it's just one's a sequel, one's a prequel, really, like they're not all that different, they're just different genres. So but if I had to pick, I reckon maybe a combination of two. Yeah, combination or a Hobart Rhapsody. But they're pretty linked anyway, so it's hard to find them, but yeah. So, I've got another question by Fourth Look. Do you think you'll reprint Courier in single issues after you've collected the... Sorry, I'm getting a bit tired. Do you think you'll reprint Courier in single issues after you've printed the collected edition? Yeah, I'll definitely print issue 1, reprint that one, because that's kind of like an appetizer. If someone didn't want to spend as much money, or they just wanted a little taste of the series, then sure, I'll keep reprinting issue 1 for sure. Yeah, I don't know, I think I'll keep the single issues for as long as the current stocks are. It's going to be hard though, because I'm going to have to keep on printing them so there's enough for the bundle and all that, so I don't know, it's something I'm going to have to figure out as I go, just because, yeah, it's a bit fiddly. But eventually I'll phase them out. I'll only have the first issue and the 2 collected editions. In colour, I think I will have the first one in colour, but I know this is going to happen once I have like the colour editions. People are going to want the black and white ones, so maybe later on I'll re-release it in black and white as well. Or I could even, I have even thought of having the collected editions in colour, and maybe even having like some singles in black and white. I'll have to think about it and trial and error. Yeah. Another question. So, how many comics are left in you? Yeah, so like I said, I've got Courier to finish, a Hobart Rhapsody to finish, and then I've got like another big one in me, and I don't know. After that, I'll probably see what's up. I've only really got plans for I've only got a plan for another really big one after this, and then I'll see what's up. Have you considered selling other merchandise like apparel or statues. Yeah, so this Kickstarter I'm actually getting into a bit more merch because I don't really do that. So I've got a thylacine pin that I'll get done and an enamel pin. So that's kind of cool. To be honest, I'm not really fussed with all the merchandise stuff. Like I just want to make comics. But I understand some people like merch and that's what they're into. So I have got it as an option in my Kickstarter. See how it goes. So I'll probably like get a few pins done for that. But I've never been too keen. Like it'll be pretty cool to get a figurine of Geraldine or something like that. I might even like. I've been meaning to get into a bit of sculpture actually and try some stuff out. Haven't got round to it yet. I really should. You know, statues and stuff will be cool if I can make it economical. That's the main thing. Like I can make a pin economical. I can get a profit back, but for figurines, I'll need to make sure that it's. I'll have to look into the costs. I think it's pretty costly. So yeah, we'll see. So any last questions? I might wrap this up soon instead of babbling on. Thanks so much for coming by and listening and being part of this. I really appreciate it. I'd just like to shout out special thanks to Kieran Jack and a special thanks to Stephen Clock, who have both of them have really helped me set up my Kickstarter, and they've answered my questions along the way. So thanks so much, guys. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the questions. That's about it. Oh, I've got another question. Any favorite TV shows, if you have the time to watch? I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV for years, but I watch stuff on YouTube. So I watch a bit of anime and stuff. Yeah. Thank you. If Courier was adapted, would you prefer live action? I think live action will work better for Courier. I reckon it'll be a lower budget, and it can work because it's you got all you need is Tasmania. You could even film it in parts of Victoria as well, because the landscape looks a bit similar in some of the Gippsland areas or in the Alps. Looks a bit similar. You just need the car. You need a little bit of wardrobe work, and it'll be very easy to shoot something, I think, in live action. In animation, I think I don't know, if it's a short animations, then it might work better. Depends. But I think if it was going to be like a high quality thing, I think live action would be better. Yeah, thanks for the questions. Yeah, Tassie is a fantastic backdrop. Yeah, totally. I got to get back there to get more inspiration and just so I can get that magic back into my landscapes. Yeah, but thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week, and yeah, if you feel like sharing the Kickstarter and all that stuff, then or this video or anything, then thanks so much for doing that. Thanks for backing if you have already, and or if you plan to. And yeah, it'd be cool to do this again sometime, maybe with my webcam, so I can draw traditionally. So thanks so much, guys, and take care. Okay. All right. Bye bye.